Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Meet the Experts. I am your host, Jay Vix. This is episode, I believe, 82. I'm going back and renumbering them just to make sure. It's really hard to keep count when you're doing so many and you're putting them up, but just the fact that we've done over 80 of these episodes is just a personal miracle in my life. I feel like. What is Meet the Experts? What are you doing here? Why are you watching? That's a really good question. I'm so glad you just asked me that. It is. I call it the anti podcast. Meet the Experts is a place for small business owners, managers, founders, thought leaders, creatives to get some video content created for their business that give them a platform to where they can talk about themselves, their products, their services, what makes them tick, who they serve, who they help, and how they do it. We do this in a very short 20 to 30-minute interview, and it costs them nothing. We do this as a free service. We call it value in advance content. Our agenda is simple. Grow our network, make more friends, give people some real value before we do any other type of business together. Most of our guests are not existing clients, in hopes that maybe someday we can share business together. But I've learned so much. It's become so much bigger than that. I've learned so much by doing each and every episode. We've been kind of going through a series right now where we've been talking to people in either the mergers and acquisitions, the business broker space, and the franchise world, just people who are trying to grow through, acquiring or buying into a system, right? So today's no difference. We've got Dustin Zeher coming up, and he's with Horizon Business Brokers. We're going to bring him up in just a second. Again, Dustin is he's the founder and principal broker of Horizon Business Brokers, the name of his company. And what they do is they help people buy, sell, and value small to mid-sized business in a variety of different industries. So they can help you with the acquisition, those mergers, and everything else. He's going to tell you all about it. And I'm excited to learn more about this space because to me, as a growing business owner, I've been really starting to kind of get in that mindset of when is a good time to maybe buy or merge or sell, right? And just starting to think about those things. And while I think I'm a few years away, it may not need to be the case. So I'm really interested to see what Dustin has to say. So let's go ahead and get him up on the stage. Dustin, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Jay. I'm doing well. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Glad to have you. And I realized I just said good morning, and I guess now I'll have to schedule this one to run in the morning. Um, well, cool. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you were able to kind of make today work. And we may as well just get right into it. So just tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Sure. Yeah. So again, I'm Dustin Zeher. I'm the owner, founder of Horizon Business Brokers. We're a full service business brokerage firm. We're based out of Northern Virginia, kind of cover the whole DC metro, Baltimore metro, Richmond metro area. I actually just opened up another office in another metro area in Raleigh, North Carolina. But we're here helping small business owners or entrepreneurs kind of enter and exit kind of the small business marketplace. Small business marketplace, depending on who you talk to, that could be up to $5 to $10 million in revenue. Our typical clients probably doing as low as about $100,000 in revenue, up to about 30 million. We're actually comfortable with, but our average clients probably in and around the $2 to $3 million range in revenue.
Very cool. So that's interesting and eye-opening to me, and welcome to an office in North Carolina right down the road from me, as I'm in Greensboro. So it's pretty cool that you're in Raleigh. Next time you're down there, you got to let me know and maybe we can meet up for lunch. But so it's interesting to hear that like $2 million to $3 million is kind of the average revenue, and I feel like that when I started my business, that might have sounded like a lot, like, wow, if I could get to there, like, oh my gosh, I've made it. But then when you look at the grand scheme and the more I've learned about like kind of the whole ecosystem of business, like I do see small businesses that consider themselves small that are at like the 15, 20, 25, $30 million range. And I'm like, wow, that's yeah, that's real big for a small business, so it's interesting. But I would imagine a lot of businesses are kind of in that successful businesses are in that $2 to $3 million range. So when you go in to work with these people, these business owners, entrepreneurs, can you talk about a little bit more about the services that you provide and then kind of how they help?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, from the very beginning, we have to kind of determine what that small business is worth. Does it make sense for that business owner to exit now? Is it meeting their goals financially? And are they in the condition to sell their business and get the ultimate value from the business? Like, do they have the infrastructure that's in place? Like, uh, how dependent is the business on the actual owner operator, right? So we have to kind of get an understanding of these factors because they all tie into the ultimate value of the business. Value is commonly based off of cash flow that it generates, and it's a multiple of the cash flow, usually heavily weighted on the most recent year. Maybe it averages over the past few years. So we want to start with a full review of the financial history of the business, dating back usually 3 to 5 years. You're looking at P&Ls, balance sheets, and tax returns. You're determining kind of what those revenue trends are, what those cash flow trends are. And our job is to really determine and build the cash flow as much as possible, because again, ultimately that's where that value is going to come from. So doing a business valuation for the client is kind of step one. Something that we do have a cost for, but we're leaving you with about a 30-page written report that provides 4 different valuation practices. An equity value, an asset value, an enterprise value, and a liquidation value. And then we have some kind of something concrete that's saying, hey, this is what the business is worth, so we can come to market using that as a guideline versus saying, oh well, this is what the seller wants for the business, or this is just what Dustin thinks the business is worth, right?
Yeah.
And then we kind of then take that, we might shop it with some of our lenders to get some further validation and some pre-qualification letters. So really kind of setting them up for the path to success. And then if they are interested in coming to market from there, then we're putting together a full marketing package, marketing and advertising the business for sale, which can be done in a variety of different ways. And then finding the buyer, qualifying the buyer, negotiating, facilitating the sale to close, and putting buyer and seller in touch with any resources that they may need, accountants, attorneys, and for buyers might be lenders. And again, we've already maybe had that business pre-qualified with a lender, so we've already got that lined up for them.
It's kind of like real estate in that sense. You need the pre-qual before the realtor wants to go show you the houses or spend their day showing you the houses. So you mentioned a few things that were quite interesting in there with regards to coming in and figuring out how much the business is worth. If the business is largely dependent on the owner, for instance, the owner is kind of the bottleneck in the growth, right? Or the linchpin, I guess, so to speak. Like, without the owner, there is no business. What kinds of things can you do? And I know this, I didn't kind of talk about this with you ahead of time, but it kind of piqued my interest. What kinds of things can you do, or is this a service that you do to kind of help prepare the business, or do you refer that out to help prepare the business to move away from being so dependent on the owner?
Yeah, so it's not something that we help with internally, but we do have a referral sources that are like business coaches,
Okay.
or kind of outsourced CEOs that can kind of help the business owner kind of look at their business through a different lens, and kind of what they need to do to kind of create that that management infrastructure in place, or kind of pass some of the roles and responsibilities that owner may play to other key individuals to make it easier for a buyer to come in. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Very cool. And do you have like a big database of buyers and sellers so that you can be looking and trying to match people up?
Yeah, I mean, so we've been selling businesses for about 17 years, so we have well over 10,000 buyers in our database. Sure, some are more active than others, but and then our sellers, that's constantly evolving. I mean, we probably speak with not probably. I mean, we definitely speak with, trying to do some quick math in my head, around 300 to 400, business sellers a year, right? So,
Okay.
those have, compounded over the years. And then, we do, have access to, databases and listservs of, basically whatever business industry, or business contact information we might want. We can obviously purchase that data and reach out to those potential targets to see if they have any interest in selling or expanding their business through acquisition. And we utilize those tools and resources for some buy side representation that we do as well. So for the buyers that didn't see a business that we have listed for sale, or something else that might be available online, but they employ us to do a targeted search for them and represent them through the process.
That's so cool. There's so much in this. Like I'm recently learning more about like this whole M&A business broker, but buying and selling to grow, like utilizing this to grow a business, but through acquisitions and stuff. It's just mind boggling to me. My one track mind for so many years was just like, oh, you start a business, you build it up, and then you either, legacy pass it down to somebody in your family, a child, or not a child, but a grown child, or family member, or you sell it. But I never really thought about like you could have a business and then grow the business by buying up or taking up other businesses and like those assets, and that to me has been one of the biggest, most fascinating things to learn over the last 2 years or so. So let's talk about this, because you said you've been doing this for 17 years. Is that right?
Yeah, I started in 2005 working with their company. Worked with them for about a year, and then I launched my own firm in 2006.
Wow, congratulations.
Thanks.
The thing that I know is that we can't be in business for 16, 17 years if we're not doing something right and making people happy. Has there ever been that one, and you don't need to go through a litany, and I'm sure you have many, but has there ever been that one like testimonial or a win you've gotten for somebody that you think about often, and when people are, when you kind of wake up on that Monday morning, you're like, this is the thing that keeps me going, like this one thing that somebody said about me. Is there one testimonial or win that sticks out in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, look, so 17 years and 400 transactions or close to it. There's a lot that are popping up in my brain right now. Uh, I do have a designated testimonial section on our website, so you can kind of hear from all of our happy past clients. But I guess I'm not sure if this is really a testimonial or just something to share. That's a feel good moment of selling a business, and then years later, them contacting us, ready to sell the business that we sold them, 10 or 12 years ago. And so actually we're starting to see that more, over the recent years, as from our earlier transactions, right, that happened 10, 15 years ago. So two are kind of sticking out, for me there. Maybe I'll just share one. I don't want to take up too much time, but so I sold a childcare center. It was 8 years ago. It was actually my first childcare center that I had ever sold. So it was a proud moment for me. It was the second center that they had purchased, and the center was somewhat, it had a down year, so they got a really good price for the center that they had purchased, just based on the most recent kind of performance, and what a lender was going to be willing to provide, based on that performance. So fast forward, again, 8 years later, here we are. They're ready to exit that center. Meanwhile, I sold their original center that they had first for them last year. So they come back, and now again a year later to sell the one that I had sold to them. And let's just say that they are going to triple their investment from when they acquired it, to what they're going to sell it for. So definitely a feel good moment. They've obviously thanked me, personally for affording them the opportunity and getting them through the process. But and also, some guidance that was provided along the way to help them get back to where they are now to have a successful exit. So
That's awesome. That's a huge win because I mean, and you said that was in 8 years, right? They
yes.
tripled in 8 years. So just to come in and buy an existing business, like your growth in the beginning it's easier to 2 and 3x in the early years, but once you have this established business, I mean the growth just kind of, it's not always massive, right? So to triple an existing established business over 8 years, like to me that seems incredibly powerful. Yeah, so that's nice. Love it.
Yeah.
So, Dustin, how did you get into this? So, I call it the earned it, learned it, improved your authority. So, getting into buying and selling businesses, mergers and acquisitions, learning all this stuff. Like, what is your kind of educational background? Are you self-taught? Is it institutional learning? Any title certifications? Talk about your background.
Sure. Yeah. So a guy, I kind of fell into the industry, if you will. I had a passion for small business or entrepreneurship, real estate, business law, marketing, and finance. Like really, I like those. All of those things intrigued me. I was going to school for business management. I was taking classes on all of those things, and uh, my dad's childhood friend was a business broker in upstate New York. The short story is, he's trying to get my dad involved. He was 30 years invested in a construction career. I was 21 at the time, had all these interests. And I was like, oh, well, business brokerage can kind of, tap into each one of those things. So I explored it. I worked with a company out of Maryland, worked with them for about a year, as I mentioned. And then I went out on my own in 2006. It was me, myself, and I until 2010. Started bringing on, some associate brokers. I've had a team of like 10 or 12. We're really tight now. I have 2 producers and an admin assistant that helps. So while I never obtained my, business administration or business management degree from college, I kind of just, really went full force into brokerage. Lots of school of hard knocks and on the street training. Though I have obtained my certified business intermediary designation. It's called a CBI, so you can take that accreditation, liken it to like a bookkeeper is to a CPA. I enjoyed kind of the the experience and the journey of kind of growing the business, and I get to learn. I've learned a lot from our clients. I think I attribute a lot of our success to our clients. I think that's probably one of our next questions here. That I am extremely thankful for the clients that I've worked with over the past 17 years, and all of my peers that I'm able to interact with. I'm the president of the Maryland Business Brokers Association. I'm also on the board of the Carolina Virginia Business Brokers Association, and a member of the larger International Business Brokers Association. So I enjoy participating and giving back to our community.
I love that. I'm still going to ask you the next question,
Sure.
and at the risk of making you repeat yourself, but I did want to point out that you said something that I was immediately going to allude to after you answered. I was going to say, so you got a lot of school of hard knocks in there, and I have found that I've been able to interview. I've been fortunate enough to interview a lot of really smart people like yourself, a lot of established people that are established in their businesses like yourself for a number of years, and it's like 9 out of 10, all were like, my past education, formal education was fine and good. But I've become really good at what I do because I'm actually really doing it in the field. Like I'm living it. And I feel like, that's a very important part of people's education that shouldn't be overlooked. I feel like we do learn a lot more when we're actually in it. It can be daunting, it can be overwhelming, but I'm so glad you used that School of Hard Knocks reference, because I say it, if you went back, I've probably said it in 50 of the 80 interviews, like those exact words, School of Hard Knocks, on that question. So that's why I ask it. All right, So you did mention clients, right? But let's talk about you can kind of go deeper into that. But if I were just to say, hey, Dustin, personally, professionally, tell me something you're thankful for. Have the
Sure.
floor.
Yeah, no, really clients and my peers. I'm part of arguably one of the best peer groups in the country, and so we're constantly pushing each other to be better. So and to the clients, like I said, not having that formal education and learning on the street, so to speak. You are learning from the trials and tribulations of the clients, of other business owners, right? So these clients that I've met, you get to see what they did right, what they did wrong, try to implement those into my business. Some things were successful and some things were complete duds, but you never know unless you try. So and then really, my family, I couldn't do this without the help and support of my family. I love my wife, and I got two boys that are 10 and 7. So I'm thankful for them, and the opportunity to be able to to be a business owner, and be able to work from home for the most part, and play an active role in my family's life and professionally.
I'm so glad you said that because you and I both share that in common. Husband, dad. I've got a 7, almost 8-year old girl. And the ability to work from wherever I am, whether it was home where I did work for a number of years to my studio where I am now. Um, again, it's it's I never overlook the guests that say that family is something they're truly thankful for, and I think it is something to be thankful for. There are people that don't have families to support them and help them and get them. When I started my marketing agency, well, not when I started as a side hustle, but in 2015 when I went full time. Before I went full time, I said to my wife, if we're gonna move, we were moving from at the time, and I said, if we're gonna move to this new town, I'd really like to do this full time. And she said, look, you could do whatever you want. Just don't be using all of our personal checking account money to fund this business thing. Like, make sure the business can fund itself. So from day one, I was like very focused that like I couldn't spend more than I was bringing in. And I managed to do it. Only one time did I have to borrow a couple of bucks for for a couple of days from the personal, and I felt bad about it. But it's cool. It's a good supportive family. Having children to know that you're responsible for, I think, is definitely enough to make us get up in the morning and know that we have work to do. So that's awesome. Man, we are almost out of time. I've got one more question for you, and this is a doozy. This is the big one. I love asking this question because I'm like, look, here's your 24/7 chance to have an answer to the most frequently asked question that you get in your business from people you're working with, right? So give us that biggie. Give us that one question that you hear over and over again, and go ahead and answer it on video.
Okay, so oof, man, hard. Uh, uh, how long does it take, and what do I have to do to be prepared to sell my business? So maybe a two-part question, right?
Sure.
So what you have to do to be prepared to sell your business for the most successful exit is really just make sure you have a clean financial history, and you can precisely and accurately represent the profitability and cash flow that the business generates. This should be at least for a 3-year period of time. That's not a hard fast rule, but start there. And then making sure that you have kind of policies and procedures and infrastructure in place. Trying to make sure that the business is not solely dependent on you. That you have some key employees and management that are in place, that if you had to go take extended leave for whatever reason, if it's vacation or health or what have you, that your business is going to operate smooth and efficiently with limited to no effort on your part. So those are probably the two most important factors to prepare yourself for sale. And as far as timing, the national average length of time is typically 8 to 12 months. Our average is generally around 5 to 7 months. As our I would say the good brokers, I say, the brokers that are in my peer group, that, we're able to hit those goals. Now, we don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. So we do prepare our clients for that 8 to 12 month mark, and that's what you should prepare for. And it could take longer, depending on, the industry, depending on, the market conditions. And right now, interest rates are a little higher than they have been historically, right? So we're not seeing as much of a buyer activity. Though I think we're seeing that turnaround as people are getting more understanding of and comfortable with these interest rates. So it's just kind of the cost of doing business to get into an opportunity. They're not going to be that way forever. You can refinance later. It's just, the point is get into a business now that's cash flowing, that's going to support your cash flow needs, and kind of meet your goals and expectations, and grow it into that bigger business so you can have a successful exit later.
I love that. Dustin, this has been wonderful. I feel like I've once again, I've learned a lot. It's so rewarding doing these. Stick around backstage. Dustin, thanks so much for coming on. By the way, before I let you go, at the bottom of the screen, we've got some contact information for Dustin. Horizon Business Brokers. That website is horizonbrokers.com. You can reach Dustin by emailing dustin@horizonbrokers.com or by calling area code 571-437-5135. There it is at the bottom of the screen going that way. And Dustin, thanks again for coming on Meet the Experts. Stick around backstage. I'll be with you in a minute.
So, thank you.
All right. Awesome. Love those conversations. As a business owner, I think we need to be thinking about what's the end game. Like, what is it an exit? What kind of exit is it? Is it a sale? Is it a pass on? Is it an internal sale, external sale? I guess they're both kind of sales. What are we going to do? I mean, are you just going to, is it just going to just kind of go away someday? I think we should be planning as business owners, if you're watching this, for what is after the business. When do we want that to be? And maybe start to have those conversations, something that I've neglected often. I did mention at the beginning, if you would like to be a guest on Meet the Experts in the future, it's open to everyone. It's free. Anyone who's in business at any type of senior level management or higher, or maybe just a thought leader or creative freelancer, who needs some more content, right? We tell you we can give you a year's worth of content in a 30-minute interview. That's true. It's very easy to chop these up into little segments and use them in all of your different marketing channels. Just go to meettheexpertspodcast.com. So it's www.meettheexperts with an S podcast.com. It's right about there, going this way. One more time, meettheexpertspodcast.com. We've got several more recordings in the queue, and there should be no shortage of episodes coming out over our social channels over the next few weeks. And please support our guests, and thanks so much for visiting and watching another episode.